Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Two Geeks and a Microphone show. Today, we are celebrating Star Wars Podcast Day 2023. And how we're doing that? We're doing that by taking a deep dive into the Star Wars universe. But this deep dive, we will answer the question, what happens if Luke goes to the dark side? Mike?
That's right. Today we will be talking about Star Wars, The Dark Empire, a comic book series that's become a fan favorite among Star Wars fans.
All right. Well, without further ado, everybody, let's get started.
Hello there. So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Sorry, I wasn't ready.
That's all right. We're doing new things, everybody. I love it. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I am your co-host, Mr. Stephen Boster, along with the one, the only Mr. Michael Shanks. Mike, say hey to everybody.
Good evening to all you geeks out there in Geekdom Land.
Yes, that is correct. So here's the dealio, so everybody. Today is a special day. Today is Star Wars Podcast Day 2023. And the reason it is like February 7th is because the very first Star Wars podcast aired their first episode February 7th, 1999. And we here at Two Geeks have been celebrating with the folks at hashtag Star Wars Podcast Day.
Ever since our inception, actually.
Yeah. And so usually when you see on the list, we're like one of the first ones on there, only because it's alphabetical order and our podcast starts with a 2.
I inadvertently, geniusly did that.
Right. So if you want to check us out, you could do hashtag Star Wars Podcast Day 2023 or hashtag SWPD 2023. And it is neat. I mean, we are one of, dozens of.
I think there's 100 podcasts that are involved in this at the last count.
Okay.
So, yeah. So there's a lot of shows to check out celebrating Star Wars Podcast Day. So go make sure and check those guys out too.
Yeah, it is neat. It'd be amazing to see all the ones that are doing something today to just really mark the occasion. And so Mike had a great idea, as always, about what we cover and stuff like that. And I had not read this series, Dark Empire, Star Wars Dark Empire, but he has referenced it. If you guys have listened to the show, he has referenced it several times, some key tie-ins and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about our show, but Mike, I'll let you kind of give us a little more background about the comic book series and kind of give us a summary.
Well, the first thing I'll do is show the cover to issue number 1. I gotta say the cover art on these comics are just beautiful.
They're fabulous.
The inside art is okay. It's not the best.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just okay. But the story is amazing. I love the story.
It's a good story.
Just to give a little background on it, The Dark Empire is a 6-issue comic series that was created by Tom Veitch and Cam Kennedy. I hope I'm saying that right. The series was first published by Dark Horse Comics in 1991, who recently Dark Horse has picked up some of the Star Wars comics again, but I think it's more of a kiddish type thing. And takes place in the Star Wars expanded universe. The story is set several years after the events of the original Star Wars film, A New Hope, and follows the conflict between the New Republic and the reborn Empire, led by the resurrected Emperor Palpatine.
So technically, it takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can blame that on ChatGTP. I had it help me write this.
Right? It's always fun.
So I'm gonna blame the robot.
Right.
That's why they're coming to take us over. Anyway, the series opens with the return of Emperor Palpatine, who has miraculously survived his death in the original Star Wars trilogy, or to quote Poe Dameron in the new sequel trilogy, he somehow came back,
Right.
which I absolutely hate. But no, I'm
Right.
going to read what they did in the comic book, and it was so much better than what they did in the sequel film.
It was much more
More
better,
better. I don't have a
everybody.
drink right now.
Cheers.
Cheers. Brenda's on her way to get me a Diet Coke. Here you go. Cheers.
Cheers. Right on.
No, that's weird. She gave me a drink of a Monster. Where was I at? Emperor Palpatine, who has miraculously survives. Okay. Palpatine seeks to regain control of the galaxy and restore the power of the Empire. The New Republic, led by Princess Leia, fights against the Empire and Palpatine's dark minions. And that's not the minions from the little little yellow minions, by the way.
Dark side minions.
The dark side, including his clone bodies.
Plural.
That's something I would have really liked to have explored more. Thank you. In the I have a drink now.
Right on.
In the sequel trilogy. Anyway, the story also explores the themes of redemption and the consequences of past actions, as well as the battle between good and evil. As the series progresses, the fate of the galaxy is left hanging in the balance, and the main characters are forced to make difficult choices in order to restore peace. And here's a more detailed. Anyway, sorry. I'm acting like our president, reading stuff that I shouldn't be reading.
All right, everybody. So here's what we normally do. We normally give kind of like our overall score of what we liked about it, kind of a thing. Try not to do too many spoilers necessarily.
We didn't pick a scale. We got to pick a scale for this one.
Right? Palpatine clones.
Oh, I'll go with that. All
right.
Palpatine clones.
All right. So, all right. Here's my score for the series, the 6-issue series. I'm dying. I liked the story. You're right. The artwork was okay. The cover art was fabulous. There are parts that I didn't care about story wise. I was like, yeah, move along. This isn't the story I want. I want the story.
You Steven scripted comic books.
In certain points, sort of, but I looked at every page. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that is a new one.
Wow, Steven. Of course, okay. I'll give you a break because I know you've had some interesting things happening in life this week, and so I'll give you a break.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Won't harp you too much. But once you get used to your schedule, I'm harping the hell out of you next time you say I'll give you grace today. You get grace today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's all in honor of Star Wars Podcast Day. That's
right.
I will give you grace for Star Wars Podcast Day.
No, it's all good. I mean, there's only bits and pieces here and there that I was like, I don't care about these characters. I know they're just side characters in this.
I think I know who you're talking about.
You know, well, anyway, so yeah, we'll go into that. So, but overall, I loved the intrigue. This story still had a great plot twist in the beginning that I was like, no, kind of a thing. And then realizing it created a different plot twist later on that I was like, okay. And then how they played that plot twist was really good.
So, in other words, the first plot twist is, it is your destiny.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is correct, and we'll get into that. I don't want to spoil too much, everybody. And then how that was played out, and some interesting character developments out of that, I thought were good. So that's really the storyline that I cared about, realistically,
Sure.
and it was really, and it was the main theme of the story. What, not a what if, but really a what if Luke goes to the dark side, kind of a thing. And I enjoyed that. And that was my favorite part. So I give it a good 8 out of 10
Nice.
Palpatine
Nice.
clones. It was enjoyable read on the main parts that I read. I read most of it, but some things I didn't just focus on. I just kind of did a little speed reading. What about you? What score would you give it?
Well, first of all, I didn't Steven skip any of this. Now, I will agree with you. There's some characters. It's like, I could care less about that. But you got that in the Star Wars comics. There are some kind of throwaway characters that no one really cares about, and that's true. But I didn't Steven skip it. As far as the art, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Duly noted.
As far as the artwork goes, like I said, the cover art for all 6 issues are beautiful and amazing. Go check them out. They do a great job. The inside art is it's not the best. It's not the worst.
That's true
And
too.
sometimes if you got a compelling enough story, it can override the artwork and make up for the lack of artwork. And I think this series does that. I think the story is just good enough that it makes up for the lack of inside artwork in it. If the artwork would have been equivalent to the cover art, I think that would have made it much more better. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, everybody.
Thank you to my wonderful wife for bringing me a Diet Coke.
Right on.
Anyway, so I too will give this 8 out of 10 cloned Palpatines.
Right on. Very nice. Very nice. Well, okay, so with that, if we were to give kind of a overview of the kind of the comic books, what would be the best way to say it? I mean, we got the plot summary that you did before, but there's this battle that's happening over this planet. The rebellion's getting wrecked, but they're stealing Star Destroyers, which was just awesome.
Yeah, I love
kind
that
of a
the
thing.
rebellion had taken over some Star Destroyers. That is cool.
That was
would have
very
been
cool.
a great thing in the sequels.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh my gosh, there's so many missed opportunities in the sequels.
Yeah. These Star Destroyers that were menacing because they were evil, but now they're in the hands of the Republic. I was like, this is so cool.
But obviously, they didn't know how to really command them very well.
Right? Yeah, they didn't do so
crash
great with them. Yeah, so they crashed on this planet. Luke's there. And then Han and Leia go in to try to save him. They find him to save him, but he's like, nope, I can't go. There's a big presence here. And like this vortex, this force vortex occurs. And then he goes into the force vortex, which takes him to this particular planet. If I got that right.
I don't remember what the name of the planet was they gave it.
Right. But it was the place where Palpatine's home world, the way they did it, rather than being his home base, not his home planet, excuse me, which wasn't Coruscant or whatever. That was his, kind of like how I equated it to like how we saw Bad Batch, and it was Dooku's, stronghold or his war chest.
I would have equated it to, in the sequel trilogy, it was Ilum, that where the Emperor was at, and he had that arena or stadium where all those people were at, which was weird.
Didn't make sense. Yep.
Yeah, it
These
didn't make sense.
devotees. Like, yeah.
Right. But yeah, this was long before that. So I like the name Ilum. I think that's a cool name. That's about the only thing in the sequel trilogy
Right.
that's super cool.
But it is that kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
then where he's there, and then you know,
That
and
would
then
be one of the similarities in this story to the sequel trilogy, I would say, actually.
yeah, the location, and then the whole. I think. Well, I don't want to go into too much just yet, but the aspect that he's there, Luke comes in, and it is the whole thing. It is your destiny, and
Your
and
destiny.
Luke starts learning the dark side.
Oh, I almost forgot. I do have a little show and tell for this episode.
Okay.
So, seeing how Luke goes to the dark side, a couple of years ago, I decided to make a custom Kenner action figure, and I have my very own dark side Luke that I used the original, the vintage Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. Although he's got vintage Darth Vader arms,
Okay.
hence the lightsaber coming out of his hand. And he has General Hux's coat. So there's my dark side Luke.
I like that. We'll have to put pictures on the page for those who are doing the audio version.
Right. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. So no. So that's the big premise. So then Luke goes to the dark side. Leia goes to try to rescue him. Goes back to try to rescue him. He's like, "Don't come, doing that, force vision thing and stuff like that. We even get a glimpse of
cool because he kind of did what he did in The Last Jedi.
Yes,
so, again,
absolutely.
Another aspect that I think they borrowed from this comic series,
Dark Empire,
right? So,
which was really one of the best parts of Dark Empire. Just like, oh, I'm not even here. I'm like, what the what? I was like,
he was really there,
right? Yeah. Which means
so,
that was pre Last Jedi, and I enjoyed that twist in The Last Jedi.
Oh heck, that was prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
That's before George Lucas's attempt. So
yeah. So then it's like, oh no, Luke's gone to the dark side. That was the cool plot twist for me. And then as we kind of walk through that, then Leia tries to go to him, and then you shouldn't have come here. Then I'm here to save you. I'm doing this my way. Luke is like, I'm doing this for the good of everybody. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And that moved into the second plot twist.
Which he reveals that basically he hasn't turned to the dark side so much, but he's trying to infiltrate the Empire is what he's trying to.
He was throwing some big battles off, kind of a thing. They had these big old war machines, kind of world destroyers, kind of like from Man of Steel. I equated it a little bit. The Man of Steel, the big world destroyers. I
thought they were better than the Star Destroyers with the basically the laser. It's
from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, in the sequel trilogy, they basically had the laser of the Death Star incorporated into them, so they were world killers. So yeah, they borrowed this idea, but I thought it was pulled off better in the comic book than it was in the film.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I think it was pulled off in the latest episode of Bad Batch too. Where there's that little.
Oh yeah. I gotta say, last Bad Batch episode I really enjoyed. I know this isn't a Bad Batch episode, but we're not breaking down each of the episodes of Bad Batch. So I really enjoyed it, and I love the fact that they brought Gunji back from Clone Wars or Rebels. I don't remember if it was Clone Wars or Rebels. Anyway, when they had the young Jedi, I guess it was Clone Wars because Ahsoka was with them. And it was because that was David Tennant from Doctor Who played the instructor robot on teaching them how to make their lightsabers. But I like
cool.
Gunji. He's a good character. He's a really cool character, and he was back for this episode, so I was really happy to see that.
Yep. I thought it was familiar.
Anyway,
So,
move along.
but that world, yes, move along. Yeah, but that world destroyer, I think was neat. But you find Luke was really kind of behind, kind of doing some sabotage, kind of a thing with those, and then even getting into R2, all the big battle plans or all the big schematics for everything, and
Yeah, when he
know.
downloads like all the information into, and 3PO's worried that he's gonna overload his circuits or whatever. That was pretty
Right.
cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then 3PO gets pissed at R2. It says that he wished that one of the world destroyers would have ate him.
Yeah. That was
funny,
good.
man.
That was classic. Yeah. But you do see Luke lose himself. He even says it's too late for me. And Leia's like, no, it's not. There's still good in you, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
And
and
I
they
thought
even
that was
quote
good.
Yoda.
Mhm.
They actually quoted Yoda a couple times in it because they quote, if you go down this path, you cannot return. And then they both quoted Yoda. I forgot what the quote was now. Shoot, I should have wrote that down. But anyway, there were a couple times where they quoted Yoda, and I like that. Nice callbacks to the original trilogy.
It was nice connections. And but you know what, that's the whole thing. Well, Luke, your dad came back, kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
which made it
back.
awkward for all those little kid Force ghosts, having to deal with, Anakin Skywalker. You killed us. Awkward this is.
True. Very true. Yeah, hopefully Luke doesn't have to go through that.
Right. But then, but realistically, he has that crisis. Then you realize there's this whole thing where Palpatine has clones. That's how he's able to survive for so long. And it even goes back to there are some things of the of the Force, the dark side of the Force, that seem unnatural. I was like, okay, that was, we kind of get some of that in the sequel trilogy, and I thought, okay, this is where they got that from. That whole concept, with the clones and the clone thing. It was even referenced, I think, in one of the video games, the Star Wars Battlefront 2. There's a kind of a scene at the end where it mentions about the whole thing about clones and the Emperor. Wow. And so a big battle, and Luke's trying to, destroy every single one of the clone stasis chambers for all the different ones. But then one, he's able to transfer his essence into one. That final one, he missed one, and then they have a big battle, kind of a thing. And then it was kind of an interesting story of how Luke thought he had to do it alone, his responsibility, only to find out that that responsibility is with his family and with his friends. They do it together. I thought, oh, that was nice. So everybody, that's the big part of the story. I mean, there are some of those comics I was like 27 page, each one was like 27 pages, and I was like, okay, anything happen? You get a couple of big events in each one, but for the most part, I really enjoyed the story.
Okay, I wanted to go back to, this is the introduction to book 3, Battle for Calamari.
Oh, great. Yes. The introductions were always a good recap of what all happened.
Yeah,
in the previous.
They did a very good job of that. I really like that. And it looks kind of like the opening of all the Star Wars films.
The opening crawl. Yes.
It has the opening. It has the format of the opening crawl. Obviously, it's not moving because it's a comic book. But I really like the intro to number 3 because, again, I go back to Poe Dameron in Rise of Skywalker saying, somehow the Emperor came back. It's like, yeah, that was dumb. That was just stupid. No reason behind it whatsoever. Comic books did a much more better job in
explaining and walking us through that. That is correct. Cheers, everybody.
So I'm going to read to you the intro. Brought to a sinister and beautiful world called Byss, by the way, Byss. Luke Skywalker finds himself the prisoner of Emperor Palpatine, now triumphantly alive. As the villainous Emperor explains to Luke, it was to Byss that his living energy was transported when his diseased and corrupted body was destroyed by Darth Vader. On Byss, he took a new clone body, as he had many times before. So this isn't the Emperor's first time doing this, by the way. He's done it multiple times. Once restored to physical life, the Emperor allowed the Civil War to rage on while he quietly and patiently rebuilt his forces, preparing a massive final blow against all who would deny him everlasting dominion over the Empire. Even now, as Luke appears to fall upon the Emperor's ever-expanding power, massive engines of destruction are inflicting death blows to the floating cities of Calamari, long-standing allies of the Rebel Alliance. In
That's
response,
right. It was all taking place there. That's right.
right.
The big battle.
Now, I have to say, I like the way Calamari is done in the Clone Wars, because it's all underwater, and it, to me, that makes more sense than these floating cities. I don't get that, but you know, we'll move past that. In response to Admiral Akbar's urgent commands, the Rebel destroyer Emancipator, love that name, together with an armada of frigates and star cruisers, makes the hyperspace jump to Calamari water world. Oh, okay, they do have the water world. All right, I was confused by that. Ready to engage the Emperor's world devastators. Much better job at explaining how the Emperor is back, just than some stupid little throwaway line. Well, somehow he returned. I always hated that.
Yeah.
Read the comic books, guys. ILM, read the comic books. It would help you a lot to read the comic books. That's all I got to say.
Right. Let me ask you this. What do you think is why is Dark Empire such an important aspect of the whole, really the Star Wars franchise in and of itself? I mean, we've mentioned the connection to the movies, and this is kind of where I'm headed with this, or why I'm asking this, is because the sequel trilogy seems to have borrowed, not successfully, though.
No.
Because the comics, as you're saying, are much more better telling how the Emperor comes back, and I think that's
well, the comic books tackled the whole clone thing much more better, by the way, too. In fact, Matt Smith, again of Doctor Who, he was the 11th Doctor. Matt Smith originally was cast to play a young Emperor, and I was super excited about that. One, I like Matt Smith. Two, I like Doctor Who. Yeah, well, up until this latest Doctor Who.
But I think Matt Smith would have just been fabulous as a young Emperor.
Gosh, I think he would have been incredible. And I thought they were going the route of Dark Empire with that. I thought for sure he was going to play a young, cloned version. Excuse me, the Diet Coke's talking back to me.
Yeah.
I thought for sure he was going to play a young, cloned version of the Emperor.
I
think if they would have went that route, I think it would have come out a lot better than what they did.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they can that idea. I think it's dumb. The whole idea of the clones is a fabulous idea. The Emperor came up with the idea of the clones so that he could live on. The problem with the clones is the power of the dark side would just drain the clone and just kill them. They wouldn't last long, and that was his issue. He couldn't keep a clone body for long enough to stay into it. So the idea with this series is, as we find out as it goes along, Leia is pregnant with, now they don't say the name, but we know, at least I know because I've read a lot of the legends. I hate that title. Comic or books, but we know that she has 3 children, and she's already had the twins according to this comic series, which was Jason and Jaina, which I absolutely love. And then the 3rd child is Anakin Solo. And I love Anakin, by the way, too. He's a great character. So we find out she's pregnant with Anakin, and the Emperor knows it. He can detect it, and the Emperor is like, "I'm taking your child," and he's taking so he can take over the body because he knows that that is a Jedi, and it can withstand the power. The clones can't. That is so much better storyline than we got in the sequel trilogy. So
I think in the sequel trilogy, it was highlighted a little bit, like "I will live through you, Ray,"
right,
kind of a thing.
Yeah, they
Transfer
highlighted
of power.
The idea was there, but it wasn't conveyed very well, in my opinion.
It wasn't.
And it was this whole all of the Jedi are inside of me, and all the dark sides, and I hated that too. It was dumb.
Right.
I mean, the only thing good that came out of that was we got the voices of several of past Jedi, which included Ahsoka, which was cool. I liked that. Even Anakin's voice was in there. Anakin Skywalker's voice was in there. I thought that was cool too. But I don't know. It didn't come across good in the movie. I didn't like it.
Right.
This story is a lot better. They should have ran with this. They really should have.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why not. Now, I have a question. Well, first of all, I want to state that Mark Hamill actually had the idea of Luke Skywalker turning to the dark side years ago. Actually, before this comic series came out. Now, Mark even says, he goes, "Look, I'm an actor, not a writer, so this might be stupid." So his idea of the way to pull it off, I didn't like at all, but I love the idea of Luke turning to the dark side, and especially in this because it's pretty temporary. It's not a permanent thing. Mark Hamill's idea was Return of the Jedi. The end of Return of the Jedi happens. Darth Vader dies, and then Luke picks up Vader's lightsaber and says, "Now I am Darth Vader." Okay, I don't like his idea of how that happens.
Right.
I think that's just dumb, and it would be a stupid way to
what would be that was one thing we didn't get was what would be Luke Skywalker's Darth name. We did not get that in this.
Yeah, it didn't. It just called him Supreme Commander Skywalker is all.
Yeah, like Supreme Commander Snoke. Supreme Commander. That's probably where they got that one too. I bet you they got a lot from that.
I didn't.
It was Supreme Commander Snoke.
Yeah, it was. And Snoke was. Oh gosh, that was such a disappointment. So when he was introduced in The Force Awakens, it was
great.
like,
I enjoyed it.
It was intriguing, and then he's just slaughtered so quickly in Last Jedi, and then you just find out he's just a failed clone attempt of the Emperor, and it's like, okay, well, that was a complete throwaway character. It was a waste. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of films time. So bad, so badly done. I don't know what their problem is. This,
all right.
They should have ran with this.
Right.
I didn't know I was going to be so frustrated with the sequel trilogy with this episode.
Right. That's okay. So what would you have named, like, if Luke had a Darth name, what would it be?
Oh yeah. Man, that's tough. Now, I think I have a reason why he didn't get a Darth name in this. I think it's because what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said no. It's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say because the Emperor could foresee that Luke was basically trying to. He knew that Luke was trying to infiltrate the Empire,
Yes.
so he just didn't bother with. I'm not giving you a Darth name because you're not actually a Sith. So I think that's why we didn't get a Sith name to this. Oh wow, Darth. Man, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Doth.
I'm not
Not
sure. I
super
had
Doth.
that one. I had to ponder for a while. I don't know what would be a good
Right.
Darth. Wish we had Mark Hamill here. I bet he'd come up with something off the top of his head too. He's probably thought about it.
Well, ever since he said, "Oh, Darth Vader," now I am Darth Vader. What?
Well, yeah, it's true. He just did say, "I am Darth Vader." So maybe Mark wouldn't have a good idea.
Right.
Where's Dave Filoni when we need him? That'd be the man to talk to.
Right.
I'm not sure. What do you think?
I don't know. We've already got. What are the Darths that we know of? Revan, Tyrannus.
We have Darth Revan. We have Tyrannus. We have Darth Maul. Darth Sidious, which is the Emperor himself. Actually, I love that name. I don't know. I'd have to do some checking in a thesaurus or something.
Right.
Where's ChatGTP?
Darth Insidious. No, I'm just kidding. I was thinking about that movie.
You got ChatGTP up by any chance?
Oh, I could get it up. Hey, this would be kind of fun. Everybody, we've been
playing
around
great
with
idea
ChatGPT and having a good time with it.
Yeah, ask ChatGTP what would be a good Darth name for Luke Skywalker if Luke did go to the dark side. I do like that idea. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a good question. Oh,
ChatGPT is at capacity right now.
Oh, said nope, you're not getting in. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll get it. I'll get back in.
I'll throw this out to our viewers and listeners.
There we go.
If you got a good idea for Luke's Darth name, throw it into the comments or send us a message or email us, and who knows, we might go back to that on an episode. I like that idea. Considering we're not doing this live tonight, this is a pre-recorded episode for those of you who do not know that. We probably should have stated that.
Wow. Yeah. Episode. Okay, so it gave me 10 Darth names in the Star Wars universe.
You did manage to get in. Okay,
I did get in. Yeah.
All right, let's see what ChatGPT says.
Yeah, Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, Darth Maul, Darth Tyrannus, Darth Plagueis, Darth Nihilus, Darth Krayt, Darth Revan, Darth Malak, and Darth Bane.
Okay, but now ask it if
Luke Skywalker, Skywalker turned to the dark side, what would be a Darth name for him?
Nice.
If Luke Skywalker turned to the dark side, it's likely he would adopt a Darth name following the Sith tradition of the Sith. A suitable name for him could be Darth Vader 2.
No, that's horrible.
Or Darth Luke. However, it's important to note that these names are not canon and are only speculation.
Those are terrible names. Terrible names. ChatGTP, you fail. I give you an F on this one. Oh, horrible. It didn't even give it an effort.
You're right.
Darth Luke. Darth Luke.
Darth Vengeance. Darth Vengeance. Darth. I'm making that up. I don't know.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Right. Darth. There's interesting names. That's kind of fun to think about. I realize.
What's a different word for vengeance? See, I told you I needed sources for that.
It is a different word for vengeance.
And the answer is
retaliation, revenge, payback, recompense, wrath, punishment, avengement, righteous indignation, retribution, blood revenge.
Yeah, none of those
restate that list. modifying the terms as Darth names.
Okay. Sounds pretty good.
Darth Retaliation, Darth Revenge, Darth Payback, Darth Recompense, Darth Wrath, Darth Punishment, Darth Avengement, Darth Righteous Indignation, Darth Retribution, Darth Bullet
I don't
Revenge.
like
That's not
any of those.
quite what I meant, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't like any of those.
Right.
What's another word we could go off of? Vengeance, hatred, anger. I'm just trying to think of all Sith attributes.
Right.
Vengeance, hatred. It'd be great if I had the Sith code up.
You could go. So if you look up like names that mean anger, you could go Diablo. Spanish origin and refers to people
Darth
with an
Diablo?
angry and evil personality.
That's kind of acceptable. Do me a favor, man.
Let me give you the list.
See if you can find the Sith code for me. Do a search for Sith code.
Here's what it gave. Here are some names that have meaning of anger in various cultures and languages. Number 1, in Latin is Aries. In Sanskrit, it's Kalinda. In English, Kestrel. 4, in Greek, it's Galen, like Galen Merrick kind of a thing. English,
Right.
Fawn. Blaze, English. Fury, English. Scottish is Tormod's probably a better way to say it. Babylonian, Balthazar. And Polish is Zarek. So you could do something like Darth Zarek.
Yeah, I kind of like Darth Zarek and Balthazar.
Balthazar. Mm-hmm. Babylonian Balthazar. Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
I like.
See,
Darth Zarek.
that's the kind of things that George Lucas would use. He would use Greek and stuff like that. He would go into other languages and stuff like that. No, some of those ideas are much more better. I'm hitting it.
Right on. Much more better. I think I drank all mine.
See, I got half
So
of that.
I asked it to do it. So it's redoing them as just Darth Tormo, Darth Balthazar, Darth Zarek.
Megan, did you find the Sith code?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do me a favor. Read the Sith code for us, please.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
I was wondering if there was something we could use in the Sith code to lead us to a Darth name, but not exactly. I do like the Sith code, though. It's pretty cool.
The Sith code is interesting. Here's what ChatGPT is saying about it, because then I had to look it up or do it.
Nice.
It said the Sith code is a set of principles that guided the beliefs and actions of the Sith order in the Star Wars universe. It is as follows. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. And then it says this, the Sith code emphasizes the pursuit of personal power and the rejection of peace and compassion, which are seen as weaknesses. It serves as a guide for the behavior of Sith lords and apprentices and is a fundamental part of the Sith philosophy.
Nice. I think the Sith code is very interesting. I really like that. We could really.
It is fascinating. Yeah. Who knew we'd go into all this?
Yeah, that could be another episode there. We could go through the Sith code and the Jedi code for another episode. We might
be a good story of Luke Skywalker going to the dark side, known as Darth Zarek.
Okay, so we're going with Darth Zarek.
Yeah, known as Darth Zarek.
Darth Zarek.
That's so funny. He goes, I'm an AI language model. I don't have the ability to write stories, but I can suggest a possible storyline for Darth Zarek.
Well, isn't that what you're asking? I mean, come on.
Sorry. It's kind of funny. I know.
No, I won't write a book.
Who knew we take this Dark Empire review into a more bigger story with Luke continuing.
Well, there is a Dark Empire too. I don't think I've ever read it though.
There is a Dark Empire too. I almost started to read it. I was like, well, I ran out of time.
I don't think I have all the issues of Dark Empire 2, but I know they're available in the Marvel app.
Here's it. Luke Skywalker, driven by a desire for greater power and frustrated with the limitations of the Jedi Order. Excuse me. Sorry. He begins to explore the teachings of the dark side. Over time, he becomes increasingly disillusioned with the Jedi and begins to embrace the philosophies of the Sith. As he grows in power and mastery of the dark side, Luke decides to break away from the Jedi and fully embrace his new identity as Darth Zarek. He becomes a ruthless and cunning Sith Lord, using his powers to further his own ambitions and conquer his enemies. Despite his newfound power, Darth Zarek is haunted by the memories of his past as a Jedi and the relationships he left behind. He must struggle with the knowledge that he has betrayed everything he once held dear and must come to terms with the consequences of his actions. As Darth Zarek grows in power, he becomes a threat to the stability of the galaxy, forcing the Jedi and the Galactic Republic to unite against him. A final confrontation between Darth Zarek and his former friends and allies leads to a showdown that will determine the fate of the galaxy.
Oh,
that's okay. That's okay. I'd like to see it incorporate, rather than just his ambitions and conquering his enemies, but well, I may have it like restate that synopsis, but using the Sith code as a guide, and Luke's friends pull him back to the light side at the end. There we go. So we'll see what it says.
Okay.
Here's a revised synopsis of the story of Darth Zarek that incorporates the Sith code and redemption arc for Luke Skywalker. That's pretty impressive.
Nice.
So it's writing it right now. So, but anyway, Dark Empire. We're supposed to be talking about Dark Empire. We went this whole way.
I really enjoyed Dark Empire. I think it's a great series. If you are, well, obviously, if you're watching this, you're a fan of Star Wars. So why would you not be watching this episode if you weren't a fan of Star Wars? So yeah, I would highly recommend it if you've never read it. I think it's a better idea for a sequel trilogy than what we got as a sequel trilogy. I know I do a lot of hate on the sequel trilogy, but this really is a much better story than that was. So.
Yeah, it was good. You could see the connections. You could see that there's some different connections that they were using. They just didn't explain it as well in the movies
as they did
in the comic book series. Yeah.
And there's just ideas that they should have went more into, that they started, they had those seeds there. They had the seeds there. They just didn't cultivate them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yep. Very much so.
I have a question for you. Do you think this story could have worked, but if we would have plugged Rey into it somehow? If we would have incorporated Rey into this story, maybe she takes the Luke Skywalker role in this. So we get the introduction to Rey in The Force Awakens, which, by the way, I do enjoy The Force Awakens. I think it's a good movie. It's just the other two movies that tainted it for me. That's the problem. I think it was a great introduction to Rey, and I think it introduced a lot of intrigue into Rey. But let's say they went off. They did Force Awakens basically the same way it was, And then the Last Jedi, they have more of the training of Rey, but a better way of doing it. I'm not sure exactly
Mhm.
how to flesh that out, but let's say we fleshed out a little bit better training of Rey. And then for the third movie, they actually plug Rey into the Luke Skywalker position of this, where where the Emperor does come back using the clones, but she's
Mhm.
the one to infiltrate the Empire and take on the role of Luke in this, where she's the Dark Jedi per se, Dark Jedi Master.
Mhm.
Words are important, Michael.
I think you
Would
could have.
would that work? Do you think we could have done that?
I think so. I think you could have because
Okay,
you got a glimpse of it. Remember when she got the Sith holocron and then she had the
right.
vision and seeing her in her
Oh,
dark side self. I was like, ooh,
that reminds me. We have a Jedi holocron in this. I forgot to look it up, but I think this might be the first time holocrons were mentioned in the Star Wars universe.
um, do you know what Star Wars story that holocrons were first introduced?
I mean, this is 1991 that this series came out in, so
Mhm.
it's the earliest I know of holocrons being mentioned. So I think this might have been the introduction to a holocron.
It's saying holograms were first introduced in Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated TV series,
Well,
but
this
this
is
came.
obviously this came out in
Um,
1991.
what about in the books and comics?
See, that's going by official Star Wars canon.
Hmm.
It's not taking into consideration the legends. So
It doesn't say.
yeah, see, I think this is the first time holocrons were introduced into the Star Wars universe, which I
Yeah,
find
I'd go with that. Hmm.
if anyone else knows of an earlier mention than 1991 of holocrons, please put it in the comments because I would love to know that. But I think
Right.
this is the first time we are introduced to Jedi holocrons, which is cool, which is very cool.
When were holograms first introduced? Intro
Hey Megan, can you do a quick
introduced.
search on the internets and see what
I
you
got it.
find? Oh, you're doing okay. I thought you were just on
Um,
ChatGPT. So
it was saying holograms made the first canon appearance in Holocron Heist, the premiere episode. Um, so that probably in canon. Oh. However, they were originally developed by Tom Veach and Cam Kennedy for the Legends comic series Star Wars Dark Empire, published by Dark Horse Comics in 1991, 1992. Very good.
bam, there we go. So yeah, this is the introduction to Jedi holocrons, which is pretty darn cool. So
Yeah.
another reason to read this series.
Right. I'm telling you, I think there's more. I didn't realize it till I read it. And now we're having more discussions about it, that there's more to Dark Empire in a connection to the sequel trilogy. They had set up, and then it sounds like they used Dark Empire to lean in on some things, about Palpatine primarily, but there are other things in here as well because they did include holocrons. Granted, it was a
Yep.
Sith holocron that they put
Well,
into it.
actually, they did that other thing. What the heck was that? I forget what they called it. The thing that guided Kylo Ren to
Yeah.
Ilum. And I hated that. I hated it. That was bad.
Hmm.
It was stupid. You know.
Hmm.
Oh, take whatever. Yeah. Just anyway.
Yep.
Anyways.
Agreed.
So yeah, Dark Horse Dark Empire definitely had an influence on the sequel trilogy, obviously, from reading this. There's just all these little connections to the sequel trilogy, but it was done way better in the comic series. they should have adapted more of this comic series into their writings for the sequel trilogy. But I think the problem was you didn't have a cohesive plan for the sequel trilogy. You know,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
J.J. Abrams started writing things out, and then they decided that they were going with Ruin Johnson for the second film, and then he
Mhm.
basically undid everything that JJ had set up, and then JJ comes in and undoes everything that Ruin Johnson set up. You know,
Mhm.
it was more of a battle between the two of them. Yeah, I think we
Mhm.
had more ego problems in that than lack of planning. Lack of
Right.
planning.
That's
That's
correct.
that's what I get.
Yep.
I attribute it all to lack of planning on Disney and ILM's part.
Agreed.
Big
All
fail.
right. Yep. Well, everybody, Dark Empire comic book. Check it out. Read it. It's actually pretty good. 8 out of 10
All
for
right.
me.
So I think that's all I got to say. If you are tuning in, please make sure that you go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure and give us a thumbs up on this video and other videos that we've done, and subscribe. The subscription will give you notifications when we go live. We normally go live on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Mhm.
You can figure out the rest. I'm not doing all the math. I don't want to do that. This is too early in the morning for me for that.
Right.
As
I
at the
hear
time
that.
of recording this, but it does help the YouTube algorithm to get us more views. We'd really appreciate that. Make sure you go and like and follow us on Facebook. That will get any information of upcoming episodes, and I like to post a lot of silly memes. There's a lot happening on the Facebook page. And thanks to the Star Wars podcast community for including us. We really appreciate you guys.
Appreciate being a part of it.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do each year, and we have participated in the first. This will be the third year that we've participated, and the third year they've done this. So obviously, we enjoy Star Wars podcasting. So thank you guys. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers. Thanks so much.
All right. Anything else, Steven?
Nope. That's it. That's good stuff.
Okay. Awesome. With that said, over and out, and may the Force be with you always. Thank you for joining us today on the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. Tune in next week when we will have more news and reviews. Until then,
May the Force be with you.